Hey there. So I wanted to give an overview of this Bluesky OAuth example just so you get an idea of how it works. So here it is deployed on the web. This is also linked from the GitHub repository. And it's exactly what you see when you clone the repository and you run it for the first time. So when you hit the home page, it's going to try to make a request which requires authentication. That request is going to return a 403, so it's going to redirect you to the login page. You put in your Bluesky handle and type in your Bluesky password, log in, and there we go. Here is what you see when you're logged in. So the first thing it does is it gives you the response of the JWT token that we set in our authentication library. There's a minimal client-side authentication library included. Then it tries to make an authenticated request to the Bluesky API. And here is the result of basically my profile coming from the Bluesky API. The logout function just unsets the cookie, or if you use session storage, it unsets the token in session storage. So, getting started. First thing you're going to do is install npm dependencies. Then you're going to want to generate your env. Since there is a requirement that you generate 3 certificates for your OAuth endpoint, I included a little bash script that will knock that out for you. I've only tested it in macOS. You might need to look at it and make some tweaks for Linux and Windows. I have no idea. There's really only a couple of options in there. You need to set the URL of your server because those need to be served. Let's look at the example. You need to use such a base URL because this base URL is used to construct your OAuth informational endpoint. These private keys and JWT secret will be generated for you once you run that script. You can turn debugging on and off. You can switch the port in your node environment. And I've included 2 auth systems. The first one, let's pull this up. The first one is cookieless, so it stores your token in session storage along with a couple of other items. Let's see, here we go. It stashes a couple of items from your OAuth redirect in session storage, and so when your user closes their session, that will be automatically deleted. When they press log out, it'll delete the token to indicate to the library that you are not logged in. And there is a helper that will make a request with that authentication token to your backend. You'll just need to configure your app name and your redirect URL. You don't need to change anything just to run the example app. Here is the guts of OAuth right here. This is basically what you need to implement OAuth using the Bluesky OAuth library. This client ID has to be the URL of the client metadata.json. Here's your OAuth app name defined above. I've included an example terms of service and privacy policy in this app along with an example logo. Here are your redirect URLs, your scopes. This is the minimum required for authentication with OAuth. And here is the part that handles JWix signing, which will be served at jwix.json. Here is some middleware to verify your auth token or cookie. And here are your two endpoints to start your login process, and your OAuth callback from Bluesky. Bluesky redirects to this URL. This, after it processes and creates your JWT token for authenticated API requests to your Express server here, this redirects back to your redirect URL, which is defined up top. There's a small example endpoint which just returns the contents of your token, basically. And here is an actual endpoint to read most of the same information from the Bluesky API. It just makes one request to demonstrate how you do that with the API, the Bluesky OAuth client library, making an AT-Proto API request. And the reason this is included is basically because you have some session storage going on. Once your OAuth is complete, you have an in-memory store here that stores your session, and then you need to rehydrate your library with your user's DID to make a new API request, and there's just an example of that right here. And then the rest of it is just serving the HTML and CSS for the page that you see here. And here are those two requests. This is that Bluesky token contents, the /me, and this is the profile request. And here's the log out button. That's just about it. Like I said, you have one option. It's off by default. By default, it uses the redirect to stash everything in session storage. If you flip this on, it uses cookie auth. There are some additional security benefits you can get from a cookie authentication system. There's also some drawbacks, but I've included an example of both, so you can start with whichever one you like. There is a rate limiter. Security considerations, you'll probably want to add helmet in. If you do take this example and run with it, the reason I haven't included it is because this example uses some inline JavaScript to demonstrate how things work, and until you set up a more robust front-end app, you're probably going to not see any benefit of adding helmet yet. Okay. That's it. If you have any questions, shoot me a message on Bluesky. You can open a GitHub issue if you like. I don't get notifications for those, so it may take some time for me to see it. But that should be everything. Thanks for watching.